Great. Good afternoon. Happy to be here. So as John said, I'm from New Jersey originally. I was born and raised in the suburb of New Jersey, North Brunswick, which is about 45 minutes outside of Manhattan, about an hour and 15 minutes north of Philly. But I've always been interested in cities. Even though I grew up in the burbs, I've always been attracted to cities for their diversity, for the culture, for the food, for all the things that I think make cities great. So my career actually has been in urban planning and development. I've been based in Washington the entire time. I have worked in all sectors. I've worked in the nonprofit world doing economic development, neighborhood revitalization work. Also worked for the private sector for a bit, doing real estate consulting. And for the past 12 years, I've been with the city, with district government. I've had 3 different jobs in the city, the last of which was at the Office of Planning for the past 7 years. And that's by far definitely the most rewarding experience and job that I've had to date. I want to talk to you a little bit about the work. I was the associate director for Citywide Planning, so I had a lot of areas of responsibility. Affordable housing strategy, economic development strategy, CIP, which is capital improvement facilities planning for select district agencies, creative placemaking work, transportation planning. Those kind of all fell under me. So very sort of wide range of topics, but really came into my own with the placemaking work, with the creative placemaking work. So with that, I'm going to talk. The presentation is going to be a little bit about myself, which I just covered, an overview of DC for folks who are not really familiar with the city. It's changed a lot over the last 20 years, and I want to talk a little bit about those changes, get into the framework for creative placemaking. We've done a lot around our creative economy, and that really kind of set the roadmap for that. And then go into some specific creative placemaking projects. I'm going to highlight 2. And then wrap up with some resources, which actually I have as a handout because of the interest of time. I'm not going to really go specifically into those and talk a little bit about the Loeb year. So Washington, this is Washington at a glance. And, you know, this city is really a dynamic place. Just a few sort of facts here. I'm not going to read all the stats, but we're a small city. We're only 68 square miles, and only 43% of our land is taxable. 20% of the city's space is parks and open space. We have a pretty high median income, but you'll see that that's not across the board. The median income is $102,000, and that is for the district proper. That's not a regional number. We're a very educated population. Over 55% have college degree, pretty good broadband access. And we have really one of the largest office markets in the country, second largest rail system, et cetera. The district has really dual identities. It is both a federal and local city. And as far as the local city, we're pretty young in terms of self-governance. Home rule was established in the late 60s, early 70s. Today, our challenge is really making DC a great international city, given the dual persona. We are an international city. We have over 180 embassies and foreign missions. We have over 70 museums. We're an academic city. We have 12 universities, 70 university programs that are based there, and over 100,000 college students that are in the city, and over nearly 90 performing arts organizations. My job and my area is specifically on neighborhoods. So what you're seeing there, the mall, I don't really do too much with the mall downtown. I'm really in the neighborhoods where there have been some challenges and where there have been some unique opportunities. DC is also, one of the biggest takeaways is that DC is growing. We've been growing for a while, but in the last 4 or 5 years, it's been astronomical growth. The numbers really tell the story and really says it all. Within the last 4 years, or since 2000, we've grown about 86,000, 87,000 people. In the last 66% of that growth has been in the last 4. We were growing at a rate of about 1,100 residents a month for the last 3 years. That number has slowed down last year, but we're still growing. We're just growing at a slower rate. And we're attracting everyone to the city. Of course, we're attracting millennials. We're the #1 destination for college-age students, but we're also attracting baby boomers and families as well. So it's a pretty diverse mix that is attracted to DC. With that growth, our challenge is to manage that growth. We're investing on multiple levels. We've been a city that's not been afraid to take some risks and some chances, and we've been doing a lot with startups, pop-ups, transportation choice. We were the first U.S. city to have bike share. There's over 200 stations. We're doing a lot with social entrepreneurship, incubator space, the sharing economy. All of that is really booming in DC. In addition, we're also a very green city. It's not really a well-known story, but we have over 400 LEED certified projects in the district, and we were one of the first cities to have it as a law for green buildings. Specifically, we do a lot of strategy work, economic strategy work. About 5 years ago, there was this feeling that, we had this growing creative economy, but we didn't have the data to back it up. So we decided to do a creative action agenda, and that really looked at the economy, that it sought to define the creative economy. What does that mean for DC? For DC, it really means, for us, it's media and communications, performing arts, visual arts, building arts, museum, heritage, and culinary arts. So we have a pretty wide definition. And we estimated the economic significance of the sector. That economic significance is over $5 billion annually. It generates over 90,000 jobs annually. So it's not insignificant. It's about 10% of the economic base. And, we realize that we're talking to different audiences, the mayor, to get funding around initiatives. Numbers are important, and really needing to know your audience and how you translate information and data. So, and this was also extremely helpful to the arts and culture communities that use the data to help them generate funding opportunities as well. Creative placemaking. The one thing on this slide, actually, that I didn't go over, but I bolded, it really did highlight, and this is really sort of the thing that's bolded in italics, supporting revitalization of emerging neighborhoods through arts and culture uses, branding, and placemaking. This is a core tenet of what we have been doing over the last 5 years, and it's really rooted in the study, not just this study, but also the neighborhood plans that we have done, in addition to a follow-up creative economy report that was released a couple of years ago. But we really take that bullet, all of them importantly, but my work has been around that third bullet right there. And with that, we've thought about some innovative ways to do placemaking. Creative placemaking is not a new field, but it is something that is new in terms of it being a movement. Creative placemaking has been around for a long time, but there's a lot of energy around funding right now. All of the major foundations are making investments in this area. Creative placemaking, not to be confused with placemaking, which is what a lot of architects, designers, and folks that are here are really involved in. It really is the intentional use of arts and culture to shape the physical and social and economic future of cities. Creative placemaking is putting arts at the center of economic and community development. It promotes civic engagement, contributes to the quality of life. Simply put, art is a verb in creative placemaking. It's doing art to change a place. And we were doing, we had a program called Temporary Urbanism, which was looking at activating vacant and underutilized space. And we were that was a retail initiative around our neighborhood corridors. What we did with that was we took that model of activating vacant and underutilized space, and we centered it with arts and culture uses along those corridors. And what it did was it jump-started a lot of the goals that were laid out in the study I just referenced. It also helped increase vibrancy and foot traffic on the street. And it actually helped change the narrative of what neighborhoods can be. And you'll see what I mean by that in a minute. The impact of OP's creative placemaking program, we've been able to attract over 1.2 million in competitive grants to date. That's including 2 Art Place America grants and 1 Kresge Foundation grant. We've done over 10 pop-up temporary projects since 2010. I'm going to talk specifically about 2, Luminate Anacostia and the Central 14th Street implementation, which was urban street furniture. So in 2011, we received a $250,000 grant from Art Place to continue our work with temporary urbanism. Again, we shifted the focus from retail, pop-up retail, to really thinking about activating vacant and underutilized space. We worked in 4 neighborhoods, Anacostia, Deanwood, Brookland, Central 14th Street. We filled the vacant spaces with pop-up galleries, impromptu dance performances, colorful street furniture. The solutions were very much tailored to the neighborhood and what came about through the neighborhood planning process and what had been articulated through the neighborhood residents. Anacostia. Anacostia is a neighborhood that many people know. They know the name. They know that it's not necessarily, well, there's been a lot of, discussion about Anacostia. It's east of the river. This slide has a lot going on, but I really wanted to take the moment just to orient people to where Anacostia is. Anacostia is literally separated by the river. This is an area known as east of the river. Anacostia, though these stats really pertain to Anacostia and this area known as Ward 8. The big takeaway here is that while the city has been doing well, not all parts of our city have been doing well. And some of the disparities are really apparent when you start to go neighborhood by neighborhood. And I'm not going to read all of the statistics there, but it's a very high unemployment rate. This is a predominantly African-American community. Anacostia is 98% African-American. The unemployment rate is over 20%, while the city's unemployment rate is 7.4. Folks that are living in poverty, individual poverty, is hovering at 30, almost close to 40% east of the river, and it's 18% citywide. The median home value in east of the river is about $260,000, while the median home value is about $450,000 district-wide. So the point in showing this is just showing that the disparity, the opportunity. So what we did here is with Luminate Anacostia, we really sought to, there were issues around blight, there were issues around people not feeling comfortable, it was just sort of not a very active community in the evening. And it's very vibrant during the day, but things really shut down after 5:30. And there were a lot of vacant and abandoned buildings along the major commercial node, which is Martin Luther King Avenue and Good Hope Road. There's several of you probably taking the studio class on MLK, and this project is situated right along, situated right along MLK Avenue. And Luminate really is a play off of the Nuit Blanche Festival, the all-night arts festival that Toronto and Paris and other major cities have. Luminate means to illumine. 8 is physically where it sits, Ward 8. And it was a 3-month arts festival that really attracted people from all over the city and the region. We activated about a half a dozen to 10 vacant spaces along MLK Avenue. We rented them out to artists at no cost. They were able to sell their products. The artists were based, about 60-70% of the artists were based in the neighborhood or east of the river. So it was a real success story. And it really helped change the perception of the neighborhood. This was not done in isolation. We had a strong partnership. Arch Development Corporation is a community development corporation that's based right in Anacostia that has the mission of using arts and culture to drive neighborhood revitalization. So it was a bullseye for us. We weren't that lucky in the other neighborhoods, but this was a perfect fit. And they managed a lot of the work for us, and they had the deep relationships with the community. The next few slides, and I'm going to go through these pretty rapidly, but I just want to give you a sense of it. Also, in terms of magnitude, The cost of this was about $75,000. We had the grant money, the Office of Planning kicked in money, and we also leveraged the Arts and Humanities Commission. They had a public art project going on called 5x5 Public Art. And so we leveraged that as well. So the next few slides. Marketing and promoting was extremely important. We also had buy-in at the top. That was the mayor at the time, Mayor Gray, and former council member Marianne Berry, he's deceased. We did a pop-up flea market in the old evidence warehouse. That was about 220,000 square feet of space, and we activated it with art installations, and etc. This is the same warehouse. We had a pop-up restaurant, Busboys and Poets, a really popular restaurant in DC. It is important to note here, this is the first time that Busboys and Poets was ever east of the river. As a result of their participation in this festival, they got the idea, Andy Shalal, to possibly open a restaurant there. 4 years later, I can say proudly that they are going to be opening up a restaurant in Anacostia. And not only are they going to be opening up a bricks and mortar location, they're also going to have a workforce development component because he's a social entrepreneur and he understands the issues and what's needed in the neighborhood. We had world-class art as well. This is one of the spaces that one of the artists that lives in the neighborhood inhabited for the 3 months. You had stuff going on. This is a local radio station. Folks were just out. This is basically what it looked like at night. So there's a lot of good stuff. So here's the headliners. The impact of the festival. It attracted over 5,000 people opening night. The restaurants had their highest grossing night of business that weekend. We provided over $25,000 in grants to DC-based artists. We were successful in lowering the vacancy. H Street Playhouse is now Anacostia Playhouse and is located right around the corner from that warehouse. And most importantly, it led to a second Luminate Anacostia, which really had to look a lot different because a lot of the vacancies were no longer available. But it was really, really great stuff. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to pivot quickly because I don't have a lot of time. So the Central 14th Street project, this is another art place project, another one of our early projects. The big difference here, the location, this was Upper 14th Street, just north of Columbia Heights. This was also during an active planning process by our office. We were in the midst of a neighborhood planning process. We decided to jumpstart implementation and we decided to test the ideas that were coming up in the plan with this project and with these monies. And what you're going to see is the ideas in action, and it had some pretty phenomenal results. The plan priorities to encourage retail along that struggling neighborhood corridor, create walkable, safe communities, and ensure more green space. This is just a sense of where it is. 14th Street between Spring Street and Spring Street to the south, Longfellow Street to the north. The nodes become important because the nodes had very different character, very different scale. So the interventions that we did there were specific to what that particular node was dealing with. So this is node 3, which is the northern part of the node, Colorado Avenue. What we did there, what the plan called for was to re-envision the public realm and to really think about the public space. On the corner, there was a dry cleaners that was vacant, and we wanted to activate the space. So we did a temporary mock-up of the street and did some inflatable furniture. So the next couple of slides are the first event that we did there with the community. And this was something that, you didn't have to go figure out where it was. You could stumble upon the fun. We had a whole track team, they were running. They decided to pick up paint brushes, there they are, and start painting for like a few minutes. So it was really pretty awesome because the planning office didn't have to try to get people to do something. It was just, we were here, we were out there, and it was very accessible for the public, and it was fun. And along the way, we had poster boards of the plan. So people who were interested in why are you out here? What are you doing? We could tell them about the planning process and get them involved as well. But it wasn't really heavy-handed. If you just wanted to have a coffee, paint for a little bit and go, that was fine as well. but we had information about the ongoing planning process. I'm gonna fly by these. We also did the second part of the day was a design charrette, because we had thought about the intervention, and here it was about creating some urban street furniture because of the sidewalks and the depth, and really thinking about how we can bolster the businesses. And the creative intervention there was the design of street furniture. I want to say that our partners there were the Rebar Group. They're based out of San Francisco. There was a neighborhood merchant association and our office. And again, the Arts and Humanities Commission actually paired us together with the creator, or the curator, Justine Topfor. So Rebar actually took the plan and really came up with the idea of the street furniture. And the charrette was a community-based charrette. We did it in a studio, a local artist studio in the neighborhood, and it was tactile. Instead of dots on a board, we asked people to create what they wanted to see and to address some of the issues, and kind of tell us visually what they would like to see. It was really interesting. I wasn't really sure how that was going to go, but it was actually very successful, and people were really engaged. From that workshop, we did some prototyping, and a couple of months later, we did a design build workshop. It was a week in the middle of the summer, and we held the workshop outside. Again, this was something that anyone could participate in. We were doing the designs, we were painting. So the furniture was prefabricated. The pieces were already assembled. The pieces were already there. We had to assemble them and paint them. So what you're seeing here is, over the course of a week, community getting involved. And again, this is node 2, I believe. That's me. And so after it was painted, we basically so this is the work that the office did. We went and talked to businesses to see if there were businesses that would champion the furniture, that would be stewards of the furniture for the summer. We were able to talk. There were some language barriers there. We had to have some translators, and it's a very diverse area. So we actually had a really good participation, and we did this during the day, during business hours. We went one-on-one and started talking to the businesses about what was going on and if they wanted to be a part of it. So that's one lady who owns a shop there that took some of the furniture. The furniture was also multifunctional. This was a swing set, and it also dubbed as a message board. So the swing set part popped out, and this is the message board, and people would leave things, just notes. Hey, what's going on? They did jazz concerts at this corner. The planters, greening was really popular. The planters were also benches. So everything sort of had a duality to it. Kids loved it. The third event was an arts and culture pub crawl. Instead of beer crawl, this was arts and culture and food. We did it outside, and this was, again, to highlight the businesses closest to Columbia Heights that were sort of suffering from being so close to Columbia Heights, but not necessarily getting people to patronize the businesses. So we did a day-long event, DJ, mural painting. It was pretty fantastic. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to kind of go through these, but there was a lot of rich learning. I think the big takeaways for our office was, one, temporary can lead to permanent changes. Both of the examples were temporary. They were 3 months. Maybe 4, but they led to permanent changes in the neighborhood. If you're interested in sort of the permanent changes that happened in this, I'd be happy to take questions at the end. But for our office, we stepped outside our comfort zone and started doing implementation. For a planning office, that's actually pretty revolutionary. Usually it's just planning, you walk away, you leave implementation to someone else. But we actually started doing that, and now we set aside monies for early implementation and all the planning work. So it actually fundamentally shifted how we do neighborhood planning at the Office of Planning. Loeb year. So I've been immersed in these issues for quite a bit. And really, there's a moment in time here, I think, at the GSD and other planning schools. But I really want to explore the issues of race, planning, development, and public policy. My background, I come to this work from a public policy background. And I'm really interested in how or the lack thereof of the conversation around race. I'm going to be involved in the Black in Design conference coming up next month. I'm I'm also interested in issues of equity and inclusion in design principles, how they're addressed or not addressed in design principles. I'm also interested in what the next iteration of tactical urbanism looks like. That's kind of well-oiled machine, but what's next with regard to that? And with that, there's my information. There's some handouts here, and thank you for your time.